work this morning on being underneath in the half guard and establishing a frame. So you kind of think about it from the standpoint of you can segue out of the half guard into closed guard. Like I can be here, and one of the ways we kind of work our way out of this position, and right now Keith's over me. He hasn't dropped his hip yet. But the problem with this position for him is if he overcommits his cross face, first thing we're gonna do is just frame off that inside leg. Because the more pressure he puts with the shoulder, I keep this elbow. This elbow is my lifeline. Now I create a little bit of space with my hip just to bring my knee through. Now I can frame, see? And I can go all the way back, move my hip out and lock. But we're gonna just work halfway. My elbow comes in, my hip moves out a little bit, and this arm toggles always between biting on his elbow or framing off his head. And I don't mean like I'm trying to shove his head out of the way, but one of the things you always want to think about when you're moving your hip is you're trying to make your opponent be almost parallel with you. I have to do a lot more work if I don't control the top person's head. If I just move my hip, it's gonna be a little bit more cumbersome because of the angle of his body. But as I move my hip out, I bring his head to the inside, it's a much more efficient movement. Now my knee comes through, and this is our butterfly hook. You see how as soon as I put the shin in, now I realign my hip underneath, and my hip starts moving to the opposite side. This elbow now, it went from his face down to his elbow. This arm comes up. I want to shelve his arm. He does not get that arm back. Once the knee comes in, it's in his best interest to let go. So I hold. See, now I just start the rotation. Elevate the hook. The bottom leg is going to chop. Then we come straight up to the mount. This is a very powerful sweep because his hip is right over my hip. If any time you can sweep somebody and their hip is directly over your hip, you mount. It's one of the best ways we can finish a sweep. But from this position, before he drops his hip, my elbow's already here. Hip goes out, head goes to the inside. Now my knee pops through. As soon as the knee comes in, you'll see, if you notice my hands, one elbow comes down, one elbow comes up as my hip starts to rotate to the other side. And elevate the hook, and the bottom leg, it's similar to a scissor sweep. It's a little chop, and my hip follows it. We go straight to the mount, control the elbow, because you're gonna end up with an underhook already. Anytime you can get to the mount and you can control at least one elbow, it's a much more advantageous position for you because he needs both elbows to really work a strong defense. So we're gonna go inside, outside, but this is how you're gonna start from the beginning. Right here, I have the position. First thing is that inside frame, right here. Now we unlock, this leg is just biting. I move his head to the inside, my hip goes to the outside, and it's the inside knee. Once that comes in, engage your elbows. One up, one down, rotate the hips, lift. This helps so much. And the reason why it helps is, let's do this again, sir. The hook sweep can be really powerful, so anytime you have the ability to keep your partner's hips close to you, if I don't chop his leg, this is what happens. I kind of throw him out, see? Now I wind up in his guard. It's not what I want. I want to keep his hip close to me. So this particular variation of the hook sweep, because this leg is on the outside, as I rotate, I'm not just bringing him over, I bring the knee up to lighten his hip. Now you see the bottom leg just chops. Keeps his hips right underneath me. And then bring the elbow up to stabilize the position. We're gonna start the inside knee first, then we're gonna deal with what happens if he doesn't give us the space. Okay, any questions? Let's go, 1, 2, 3. It helps so much, shelving that elbow, because what this does, it pulls the weight off the hips. If I hold this way and I try to turn, he's just too heavy. He can root his hip to the mat. But you visually watch him as I bring the elbow close to me. It's much harder, and my knee's coming up before it comes over. So when you're going half guard, this is the other reason why when the knee comes in, I need to bring his elbow out like this. It makes him much lighter. Drawing the elbow away, yes, this is why when you're engaging butterfly, it's rare. Your connection is never with your hands, it's your elbows. This motion. If you see, even just in this position here, like this, I don't want to do, it's rare. This is good for control. I just want to control a position, but if I'm ready to attack, see, that's why I tell people, like, put your hand on your ear. Jean-Jacques, as I've heard him say, check their temperature. This is another good way. Just put your hand on their forehead. You see his elbow? So light. Resist the urge to put your hands on your partner. Connect your elbow. This is a little detail, but it's all based on the elbow control. So when we're working this, make sure, draw that elbow on your shoulder. Just a couple more minutes, then we're gonna move on. Okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Get his weight to come forward, because like right now, trying to sweep, sometimes I agree, it can be hard. I start going after his elbow. That's gonna bring his weight to me. Because once you attack the elbow, if he tries to pull his arm out, I'm gonna break his arm. He has to bring his weight to me. That means his weight comes off his hips. Now the hook becomes a lot more powerful. I exaggerated the movement. You can finish your opponent this way. If they overcommit, I'm going this way, and he roots his hip to the ground, I immediately bring my knee up, and I'll go right after this outstretched arm. But you see the position of our body. Even like this, I'm laying on his arm. If I feel Keith start to try to defend this arm lock, his weight comes forward. Now he becomes super light off his base. So whenever that knee comes in, and you get that bite, if I root my, yeah, see, I already feel it. So go ahead and hold. I need to come towards him to take the weight off. Your defensive response, anytime a limb is in danger, is not to extract the limb, it's to bring your body close to it. But you sacrifice your base and your balance in doing so. So this is why, tactically, I would rather be swept than submitted. So you kind of have to accept the sweep at that point. It's either that or your elbow. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So all I want you guys to do, when you get in here, you're gonna make your hook, you're gonna create this, see? And whoever's on top, defend the sweep a little bit. Sit your weight back, and yes, you're gonna start to feel that. As soon as they come forward, go right over. Okay, any questions? Let's go. 1, 2, 3. For a lot of reasons. One is because I have all the space, and two, every time he keeps his weight on top of me like this, I can engage my knees and really disrupt his balance. So pretty much everybody approaches this the same way. He's gonna drop his hip like this. So now things change. But the reality is, the number one thing is this arm is still your way out because of this cross face. So let's go back for a second. Make sure you never put your hand on the hip. Never. Your hand's never really involved. This frame from half guard, the only time your hand gets involved is if he sprawls. If he sprawls his weight back and doesn't understand the position, I can block his leg just to come out. I can put my hand on his knee, basically. There's not really much structurally that my hand's at risk. But here, you can imagine my elbow's on the mat. He shifts his hip, you're gonna break your wrist. So when he goes to drop, just think you want your elbow close to your body. I can't have my elbow out and his hip comes up. Now I'm in trouble. So you're gonna start like this. All I want the person on the bottom to do is have their elbow just like this. Now when he drops, you see where my elbow is? The key here is I'm gonna unlock. What I need to do is get this knee, my inside knee, to this elbow. How do I do this? I make sure I keep this frame. I don't open too much, but I cannot keep my feet locked. And all I'm trying to do now is a little shrimp to get my knee here. At this point, even with my feet completely open, whatever he does in any capacity to pass my guard, he meets a wall. Just, you can like go to side control key. Just get up. It's right here. Simple movement. Every time they drop, elbow in, and our work is to get this knee in. A lot of times they'll create the space. He'll start blocking the hip, trying to get his leg out. See, my knee comes in. But when my knee comes in, the same rules apply. It's a little bit looser. He doesn't get this arm back, and I control this one. Now, anywhere he goes, you see how even here, my knees already are doing the work. I can go after his arm, hooks, anything. Here, and then hip out, bring that knee in. The other reason this is vital is something that can happen a lot to you if your knee is caught below the hip line is that you get knee locked. They can knee bar you because your leg is in a bad spot. So whenever the person drops into half guard, elbow down, my priority is to get my knee in front of his hip. Once I accomplish that, you see the hands, I'm not really controlling, it's just making sure his arms don't get away from me. And as he moves, you see how right away you segue right back into a counterattack, but you're just moving out and creating this motion. Okay, very simple, but super effective. Any questions? So we're gonna finish with this. Let's go. 1, 2, 3.